next and final sociometry tool I want to talk about is called the circle of strengths. So this is an exercise that uses sociometry as well as the psychodramatic intervention of concretization, which is where we take something that's invisible and we use an object to symbolically represent that. In this case, we usually will use scarves or shawls, some sort of fabric, to concretize and symbolize different strengths within the group. So this exercise is really inherently strengths-based in that it's focused entirely on strengths within group members, strengths within oneself, and strengths within the group as a whole. So there's lots of ways to do this exercise and lots of ways to modify it. The original way it was created was to have individuals choose a scarf that could symbolize a strength that they're bringing and can contribute to the group. So for example, an individual might choose a scarf that represents courage, and they might say to the group, I chose this, and to represent courage, this is a strength that I feel comfortable using and a strength that I can contribute to this group. My trainer who created this model, this intervention, was teaching it in Asia and tried to facilitate it in the same way that I just described. And the group kind of balked at participating. And they said that it wasn't very culturally appropriate to be identifying their own strengths. And instead, put their heads together and co-created a new way of doing this exercise, which has become our favorite and I think the most effective way of facilitating the circle of strengths, which is where you have participants identify strengths that they see in somebody else in the group instead of identifying a strength they see in themselves. Now, you can facilitate that in lots of different ways. You could have individuals in the group partner with each other and then identify strengths they see in their partner and exchange strengths back and forth. I chose this to represent your determination. I've seen you demonstrate this determination in the following ways. I actually find it best to ask everyone in the group to simply turn and look at the person on their right or on their left, and to identify a strength that they see in the person on their right, and then to go and choose a scarf to represent that strength, and one at a time to present the strength to the person on their right in front of the group. This avenue of doing it prevents the sociodynamic effects from impacting the group, in that you're not going to have a situation where somebody was chosen last to be in a dyad, or somebody was chosen last for their strengths to be acknowledged. Instead, it's simply based on where you're standing in the group, and it's a bit more random in that way. So you would just go right around the circle, and each person would take a turn to recognize their partner for a strength that they see in them, the person to their right. As the strengths are presented, it's important that they're presented directly to the other person, rather than telling the group about the strength. You want to encourage group members to talk directly to their person and tell them directly about how they see that strength. So instead of, I see Scott demonstrate knowledge through his YouTube videos, for example, we would encourage someone to speak directly to Scott. Scott, I see you demonstrate knowledge through the ways that you've created your videos, just as an example. Hopefully you do find the videos knowledgeable. So you want to promote group members to talk directly to each other. It'll feel much more meaningful and much more vulnerable in that way than if they're talking about their partner. So once somebody receives a strength, we want to encourage them to take it in and really savor that. Notice how their partner experiences them and really own this strength, which can be particularly difficult for trauma survivors and for helping professionals, I've noticed. It's a lot easier for us to point out our vulnerabilities or our weaknesses or our character defects or areas of growth than to acknowledge our strengths. And this ties right in with PTSD and CPTSD symptoms, which lead to negative perceptions of ourselves and others and negative beliefs. So this exercise is really helpful in treating PTSD, and it can really help participants start to see themselves in a more positive light. Once an individual receives a strength, we would invite them to put it on the floor, and we would start to create a large circle of the strengths within the group. This circle serves as a reminder that everybody has an equal place within the group. It serves as a symbol of containment, that the collective strengths of the group can hold and contain anybody's traumas, anybody's feelings, and any memories within the group. And then the circle also serves logistically as a stage for the psychodrama if we're using this as a warm-up for psychodrama. So this exercise is particularly useful for many different reasons. When I facilitate this exercise, I usually do multiple rounds. First, I might have the group members at the group level present a strength to the person on their right, one at a time. And this kind of sets the stage and sets the atmosphere for vulnerability within the group. Then I might say, all right, now turn to the person to your left, the person that just presented a strength to you. And next, you're going to present a strength to them. Choose a scarf that can represent a strength that can help them overcome their trauma and present it to them. And instead of presenting them one at a time, I might then switch to having everyone present it all at the same time to the person on their left, so that it's more of a private exchange of strengths and it saves a bunch of time. And then again, they add the scarves or the strengths into the circle that we're creating. Another round that you could use in this is that you could have group members identify a strength that they see in the entire group, and to, in a sentence, tell the group how they see them demonstrate that strength and add it to the circle. Another thing you could do is, if you're doing this in organizations, you could have staff members identify a strength that they experience in the entire organization and add it to the circle. This is actually one of the most helpful exercises I've found for organizational consultation, and when I go and provide on-site group therapy and psychodrama trainings at other treatment centers and universities and other organizations or agencies, I'll use this process to help promote overall organizational cohesion or group cohesion within the organization and help individuals in the group connect with each other in more meaningful ways. Sometimes when I use this exercise in my trainings, the clinical director or the owner or executive director or president of the organization will give me the feedback that just participating in the circle of strengths with the group and learning how to do that was worth the entire cost of having me come out on site, that it was so meaningful and enriching and uplifting that beyond all the tools that they learned and knowledge that they gained, just the experience of connecting and identifying strengths in each other and within the organization made the whole day worth it for them. So this is a really powerful tool. There's certainly ways you can modify this for other topics or to make it a little more vulnerable. For example, I could ask individuals to choose a strength that they feel like they need more of, and to share with the group a strength that they feel like they need more of. Often when I do that, with each person who shares, I'll then ask the rest of the group to raise their hand if they have already seen that person demonstrate the strength that they feel like they're lacking in. And inevitably, almost every time, almost every participant will raise their hand, and then I can give them the opportunity to reflect back to their peer about how they've already seen them demonstrate this strength. You could also do this for concretizing pretty much anything else. If we wanted to talk about values, we could have them identify values. If we wanted to do a group about coping strategies, we could have them concretize coping strategies. and so on and so on. So this exercise really promotes peer support, which is the third trauma-informed principle, while also highlighting a sense of mutuality and collaboration and empowerment within the group, in that we're empowering group members to empower each other, essentially. And we're promoting vulnerability with positive criteria before we start offering more difficult prompts later on in the group. This exercise helps group cohesion quicker than any other exercise that I'm aware of, and it's one of my favorite experiential processes to use in all of the groups that I facilitate. It's helpful to keep in mind that because this exercise can really challenge some negative beliefs that people might hold about themselves, that it can be pretty cathartic and emotionally powerful for group members. So you'll just want to keep tabs on where people are at and if folks need a little additional support throughout this exercise. It's not uncommon for clients in my therapy group during this exercise to have lots of emotions and to cry and to have a catharsis when somebody's presenting them a strength that they see in them. And again, this exercise is useful not just in therapy, but also in classrooms, in community organizing or activist groups. It's really helpful in organizations, and it can also be helpful in supervision groups. This exercise can be used by itself as an entire group process, and group members will walk away feeling like it was a pretty meaningful and powerful exercise. And it also can be used as a warm-up to a psychodrama, which is how I generally use it. It becomes really useful as a safety structure, and in that we have all of the strengths of the group concretized within the room in the circle of scarves, and the psychodrama takes place in the center of that. And if group members or the protagonist becomes dysregulated later in the group process, I can ask them to choose a strength from the warm-up, from the circle of strengths, that could help them with the feelings that are coming up. Or if somebody in the audience becomes dysregulated during the psychodrama, I could ask them to choose a strength that could help them process the feelings. Or if we have a really heavy psychodrama emotionally, when we come back to sharing, if I need to keep the group a little more contained and grounded, I could ask everyone to pick up one of the strengths from the warm-up as they come back to their chair to engage in sharing. So this exercise comes from the therapeutic spiral model of psychodrama, and it offers us a safety structure for working with trauma. I find this exercise works best with scarves, and if you're familiar with psychodrama, you would know that we often use scarves as props in our exercises. It's easy enough to get a collection of scarves by asking for donations, or by simply going to local thrift shops or rummaging through your closet to find scarves that or other fabrics that you're not using anymore. And to create a simple collection of scarves for this exercise and for other exercises. When I do this exercise, I usually dump the scarves in the center of the circle as the group is coming in or before they come in. And it really gets people's creativity flowing, in that they're getting curious about, what are we going to use this pile of scarves for? And usually group members will come in and start to make jokes about me leaving my dirty laundry in the group room or something along those lines, which allows us to tap into some humor and some playfulness, which is really important when we're doing trauma therapy, that we can laugh and we can have fun. Sometimes group members' defenses go up at the idea of playing with scarves or using scarves in the therapy group. But I find that very quickly they let go of those ideas and those defenses once we get into the process, and they see just how meaningful and powerful and helpful the exercise is for themselves and for their peers. So if you wanted to learn more about the Circle of Strengths, I would encourage you to check out another video I created on the channel here, which demonstrates this exercise in action with a group and talks about it a bit further. You can also learn more about it in chapter 4 of my book, and any publications about the therapeutic spiral model will also talk about this exercise. So these are a handful of experiential sociometry tools that are particularly useful in groups of all kinds. Again, in this video, we covered using small groups, dyads and triads. We talked about spectrograms. Then we talked about locograms and floor checks, step-in sociometry, hands-on-shoulder sociograms, and the circle of strengths exercise. So when you're facilitating any sociometry processes, again, it's important to keep in mind these 6 trauma-informed principles to keep the process safe and to try to help participants titrate in and out of traumatic content during the sociometry exercises. Again, you can use these tools in any group. You can use them online or in person, in therapy groups, in telehealth sessions. Many of them can be modified in different ways for individual sessions as well. They're really useful in organizational meetings, in supervision sessions, in classrooms, and in community groups or activism. So if you wanted to learn more about sociometry and psychodrama and trauma-informed practice, I encourage you to check out some of the other videos on this channel. If you found this video helpful, it would help the channel and help the video reach more people if you were to click the like button and even subscribe to the channel here, and write a comment about what you found helpful. What experiential sociometry tools did you learn through this video? And let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to help you and offer you other resources that can help guide you in safely implementing these exercises.